Ladies and gentlemen, from the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace and Justice, Deacon Gerald Celente.
Hello, this is Deacon Celente of the Universal Church of Freedom, Peace and Justice. And again, as I've been saying over and over again, peace has become a dirty word. No one speaks about it anymore. Yeah, all the musicians that used to take to the streets and play for peace, no, they're going to Ukraine to support the war. And again, we're totally opposed to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. And we also understand the whys. And unfortunately, it's heating up. They met in Davos this week, the globalists. And on Thursday, the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, said, now remember, the Chancellor of Germany, this is the Germans that killed over 25 million Russians in World War II, which isn't ancient history, it's about 76 years ago. Operation Barbarossa under Adolf Hitler. These are the words from the German Chancellor this past Thursday. Our goal is very clear. Putin must not win his war, and I am convinced he won't win it. A Russian victory would mean a return to a world in which might was right, he said. He said Putin is trying to, quote, bomb us back to a time when war was a common political tool. When war was a common political tool, I believe Germany was part of NATO, and you destroyed Yugoslavia, and that's not ancient history, it's back in the 1990s. War is a tool. Germany and other NATO countries destroyed Libya in 2011. So what is he talking about? That war is not a common political tool. The Iraq War, brought to you by George Bush and his Washington cohorts. The Afghan War. How about speaking out against the Yemen war that's going on now, which is the worst humanitarian crisis on earth, brought to you by the United States and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates? Those words aren't spoken. Just beating the war drums. He goes on to say, when he said we cannot allow Putin to win, it is a matter of making it clear to Putin that there will be no dictated peace. Ukraine will not accept that, and neither will we. Oh, we? Who are the we? The people at Davos? Not we the people. The effects of the war on we the people. Wall Street Journal. Ukraine war fuels triple crisis in poor nations. People will be taking to the streets. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. Wheat prices surged more than 50% this year, close to a record. Corn up 32%. Soybeans 26%. Brent crude. Brent crude is now getting back to $1.20 a barrel. Food remains trapped in Ukraine. Leaders warn of global unrest. That's right. We've been warning about this for a long time. Oh, now the leaders are. It's very difficult times now, and they're only going to get worse if people let this war continue to go on. And ramping up the war, President Biden pledges to defend Taiwan, and then China wasn't very happy to hear about that. They're beating up the war drums. U.S. hastening to strengthen Taiwan forces, sending them more weapons of death and doing more deals. And going back to oil prices and how bad things can become, this is from the New York Times. Israel tells U.S. it killed Iranian officer, officials say. This is from the New York Times on the 26th of May. Current. The commander of the Guards and the Quds Force, the powerful unit within the Guards responsible for operating outside Iran's borders, were both in attendance, hinting at the colonel's importance. This is how they write it. At the funeral in Tehran for a colonel in Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, thousands of mourners packed the streets, this paragraph before, around the cemetery chanting death to Israel and calling for revenge. This colonel was 50 years old, fatally shot outside his home. The spokesman for the Israeli Prime Minister declined to comment on the killing, but according to an intelligence official briefed on the communications, Israel has informed American officials that it was behind the killing. If military conflict breaks out in the Middle East, you're going to see inflation hitting highs beyond the imagination and going back to the Ukraine war fuels triple crisis in poor nations. This will be a crisis beyond the human imagination. You're seeing gasoline prices hitting all-time highs as wages sink way below inflation. No one's talking about peace. We only have the Chancellor of Germany screaming about more war. And now what's going on in Israel? If Russia did this to another country, they would be screaming bloody murder. But Israel could do as they wish. Because if you condemn Israel's murderous acts in the apartheid state, called an apartheid state by the Human Rights Watch, and their stealing of land called what they call settlements in occupied territory, if other nations did this, they would be criticized. And going back to what this Schultz says about bomb us back in time when war was a common political tool, it's a common political tool right now. So we're going through very, very difficult times, and there's not a big push for peace. We're doing everything we can, but we need the support to make it happen. And we need your support. So please do what you can to donate to freedompeacejustice.com. freedompeacejustice.com. That we have that domain name shows you how freedom, peace, and justice are not part of the human spirit today. That name should have been taken a long time ago. Yeah. So, Israelis told American the killing was meant as a warning to Iran to halt the operation of a covert group within the Quds Force, which I read to you before. And Israel keeps bombing Syria. The United States has confiscated Iranian oil this past Wednesday. A source at shipping ministry said on Thursday that the U.S. Department of Justice had informed Greece that the cargo on the vessel is Iranian oil. What right does America have to do this? What if Russia, when America was at war with Iraq and Afghanistan, stopped American ships, took their oil off it, and gave it to who America was attacking? The condemnation is silent on America's violence and NATO's, but they scream against Russia. It's the pot calling the kettle black. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had pushed back on the decision by the San Francisco's Catholic Archbishop to deny her communion because of support for abortion. And she answered back, quote, "I respect people's views about that, but I don't respect us foisting it onto others." Well, abortion really has nothing to do with that. It has to do with if you're a Catholic, this would be against the Catholic religion. So it has nothing to do with I respect people's views, but I don't respect us foisting it onto others. Nancy Pelosi has foisted her views on all of us with her push and demands for everyone to get vaccinated with the Operation Warp Speed inoculation. This is pure hypocrisy. And the hypocrisy on the other side of it is, where is this archbishop not giving communion to Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and all of these other Democrats like Richard Durbin in Illinois, who support sending deadly weapons to bloody the killing fields of Ukraine and for all the wars that they supported, but yet you gave them First Communion? Excuse me, it's their ongoing communion. But they act as children getting their First Communion by their words and their deeds. They don't know what they're talking about. What hypocrisy. Abortion bad, mass slaughter good. And as for the vaccinations and the lockdowns mandated, this is from the Daily Mail on May 27th. Lockdowns saved just 10,000 lives in Europe and U.S. Updated Johns Hopkins study finds draconian measures had, quote, little to no effect on COVID deaths. Facts are here, and of course, we've been saying this over and over again. The people that died from the disease had pre-existing comorbidities, particularly obesity, type 2 diabetics, heart ailments, and other respiratory ailments. Facts are here. The first COVID lockdown saved 10,000 lives in Europe and the U.S. and had little or no effect on the virus death rate. A review by the international team of economists found draconian shutdowns only reduced mortality by 3% in the UK, US, and Europe. But they destroyed the lives, businesses, and livelihoods of billions of people. And then there's the Texas slaughter, and they're pushing for gun control. While America could send billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars of deadly weapons to Ukraine, start wars in any country they feel that they want to bring freedom and democracy to. That kind of guns are okay. But for a crazy person that kills other people, everybody should be denied their rights to own a gun. Switzerland is heavily armed by individuals with guns. They're not killing each other. It's the mental degradation of the United States. And the father of the killer said the lockdowns had something to do with it. He couldn't see his son because his wife had cancer and he didn't want to go near her because he was so afraid. That's what he said, words to those effect. And then this poor young kid out of his mind watching violent video games that slaughter people, and he lost the video games and said he would go out and kill. How about banning those? This is mind control. It's not gun control. The minds have been poisoned by the media and the entertainment industry and high tech. How about those action movies where masses are slaughtered and the brave people that kill them are applauded? The fish rots from the head down. America has the world's #1 murderous record of wars since World War II. If President Obama could say Gaddafi has to go, the former head of Libya that's been destroyed by NATO, led by Obama, if he says that the Syrian President Assad has to go, if George W. Bush says Hussein has to go, why not a crazy person saying you have to go? The fish rots from the head down, and America is rotting when you look at who's the heads running Washington. If we don't unite for freedom, peace, and justice, we are going to continue to degrade into living hell on earth. Please do what you can to support us. freedompeacejustice.com. We're doing our very best to hold a festival this summer, either July or August. And again, if any of you have great musicians that want to play up here, please let us know, because we want to have a good time and enjoy life to the highest that we can. And remember, get in the best shape you can, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. God is on your side. Thank you. We'll see you.